thank you everyone for joining us. I am Rob Winters. I am the founder of PodOps. PodOps is an all-in-one creator solution. So we do podcast hosting, audio, video, and then we also do recording and editing. What we're in right now is PodOps Studio. This is where we would do that recording and editing. Not here to really talk about that today, but just wanted to share a little bit about that. I'll also share really quickly that if you have not attended any of our events, they are always free. You do not have to be a PodOps user to attend any of our trainings or workshops. You can find those at thepodops.com/training. So just like tonight's awesome event, the second Thursday of every month is 6 p.m. Eastern, all the way through April of 2025. We currently have sessions set up that you can register for. You can register for multiple at once through Eventbrite. And tonight we are joined by the one and only Sarah St. James, who is going to be talking to us about PR strategies to make your podcast even better and more amazing than it already is. And if you haven't checked her out already, she has an incredible website called podcasterpr.com, which has some really good tips and tricks to help you maximize the growth of your podcast in ways other than just social media and what you might think you have to do with guests. So I let her speak to that later. I will just do a couple house cleaning items before she takes the reins. If we get to a question section, the chat button is at the lower bottom of your screen. That will pop up on your left. And if you would like to unmute yourself, you do have that ability to unmute and engage, as well as take yourself on or off camera. Totally optional. You do not have to be on camera. We are camera friendly though. And this will be shared via our YouTube channel tomorrow, and we'll send an email. And one last thing, sharing is caring. So if you have a podcast, which you probably do as a podcaster, if you drop the link into the chat, I will include that when we send the message out tomorrow to everyone. So hopefully you get a few new subscribers and a few new eyes on your podcast. And with that, I will hand it over to Sarah.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. So this presentation, there's a lot of information that you'll probably want to you'll feel compelled to screenshot and what you can do if you'd like. But just to let you know, there will be a link at the end and a QR code if you want all the slides, because there's a lot of information. But the presentation's only about 15 or 20 minutes, and there are a couple of questions that I'll ask that you'll use the chat for. So I will go ahead and start sharing. Let's see. Allow to share screen. Share this screen. Let me go present. Okay, let's see. Can you see my screen?
We sure can.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is about the 3 strategies for podcasters to gain media coverage and PR. A little bit about me. I'm the host of a podcast called Frugalpreneur, which is about building a business on a bootstrap budget. And then I'm the owner of a podcast marketing and PR agency called Podcaster PR. And then aside from that, I enjoy music, concerts, reading, dancing, traveling, jet skiing, four-wheeling, snorkeling, and I probably should have put playing with pugs in there as well. But okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is press releases or media coverage. Okay, so this is one of the questions I have. So when you think of press releases, what do you usually think of? What do you think makes a good PR campaign? Oh, let's see. I don't know if I can. I guess, Rob, if you could tell me what people are saying, because I can't see it from where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I'll also just interject and get the ball rolling. And this is probably just old world marketing. I kind of think of those kind of traditional, I've got to reach out to a marketing firm or somebody, I have to write that standard press release that's got the date and headline in my city. Kind of just that standard.
Yeah. And did anyone else say anything, or should I move on to the next slide?
Let's give them one more minute. I think I've still got people typing their
podcast
URL. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But I appreciate their interactivity for that as well.
Yeah, for some reason I can't see I mean, I would probably have to escape out of this, and I don't want to do that. So,
So Stephanie had a question or a suggestion around that. Is it more of a formal document? What would that look like? Maybe around email and hyperlinks?
let's see. Well, so 97% of press releases actually fail. But so the 3% that succeed focus on one or more of these four characteristics. And so that's what I want to get into as far as this goes. And that's story, milestone, data, or case study. So with a story, if you shared a story of a setback or hardship to gain empathy and feel more relatable to the reader, or a milestone, talk about who you were when you created the podcast or business, where you are now, and what new milestone you are celebrating. Data, survey your industry with 12 to 16 questions, gather at least 100 responses, and then give your analysis on the results. This propels you as a thought leader in your industry because of the authority attached to the survey. And then the fourth option is a case study. So if you are offering a new product or service, or you help your podcast listeners in some way, providing a case study of where your client, customer, or listener was before implementing your product, service, or coaching, and then after. So I think a lot of people think of press releases as kind of more of a general announcement or something like that, like they launched a new business or what have you. But the ones that really get picked up are usually something along one of these four categories.
And
Um,
Fawn had an interesting comment that you might appreciate. I haven't watched the show, so I can't dig into this, but she said she now thinks of it more as the Emily in Paris approach, the Netflix show.
oh, I keep hearing about that show, but I haven't actually watched it. But I think I'm going to watch it now that it's been brought up. I don't know, the 10th time now.
She says it's genius PR. So, all right, Fawn, we might need you to report back and give us some info on that later.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely if it has to do with PR or whatever, I'll definitely have to check that out. That's awesome. Thanks for the suggestion. I'm always looking for something to watch on Netflix.
And got a question for you from Stephanie. Should we send survey questions in a press release?
Uh No, you should do the survey questions before the press release and gather the data, but then the data will be used in the actual press release. So the press release itself wouldn't have the survey. That would be ahead of time.
Got it. Thank you.
So you may be wondering how or where you can submit a press release and how much it costs. So here's a few affordable options. E-releases, that's a fairly well-known one. Here's kind of a sampling of their pricing. I took a screenshot of their site. So it ranges from like 400 to 700. Um, and I actually did a podcast interview with the CEO of e-releases, I don't know, a couple months ago. And so that's the link, frugal.show/257. That's that episode where we kind of dive more into what makes a good press release and whatnot. And then another option is Connectively, which is formerly Haro, which was Help a Reporter Out. That was pretty well known. And here's kind of a sampling, much more affordable, but it's per month instead of one-time fee. But there's a free option all the way up to 150 a month. And then Press Ranger, I've actually used Press Ranger because they had an AppSumo deal. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with AppSumo, but they offer lifetime software deals. So I think I was able to get a lifetime deal for like 60 or 70 bucks or something. Unfortunately they're not on there anymore, but so the thing about Ranger is they use AI. It's an AI powered media database. So you tell them about your company, it creates a press release and then sends out an outreach to different like journalists and whatnot. And this is their pricing now. It ranges from free to also 150 a month. Boostbox PR. They actually offer a free trial. It was $1 when I took this screenshot, but it's actually free now. I'm actually on the trial right now. So the thing about this though is it's like a database of different journalists and publications and things like that. But so you have to pay like $30 a month after the trial, but then you still have to pay. So it's kind of pay to play. You still have to pay like for individual, like if you want to be in, I forget what the Wall Street Journal or something. I mean, it's hundreds of dollars, you know. So you're paying a monthly fee to have access to like pay one-off fees to get guaranteed placement. And then this one I actually recently did. I was trying it out. It's called Another Zero PR. It's only $97. And I was under the assumption that my $97 would get me into um like Wall Street Journal, or because I think I misread this because it says New York Weekly. I'm thinking New York Times, and then it's what was the other one? Wall Street Times, I think, instead of, anyway. So like a lot of the names of the different outlets are similar to like big names, but it's not actually the big names. At least for the $100. So I got into CEO Weekly. I was able to get in there, and it worked great. Like within a day, I was in CEO Weekly. But you can pay more, like 300 or 500, to get into like Forbes and NBC and all these others listed here. Okay, so that was press releases. So now I want to talk about Times Square billboards, which is probably not something that many people have thought about doing. So my second question is, if you were to guess how much, or if you were to guess, how much do you think it would cost to get your own digital billboard in Times Square? And I guess, Rob, if you can let me know what people say.
Oh yeah, I'm like, come on, we got to see some dollars in that chat box. So our first guess is a lot, all caps. I I would think that too. Stephanie's guess is 5,000. I might think more, like 10 to 15,000.
Okay, so what if I told you it only costs $150?
Okay, that would
So,
blow my mind. There was a guess of 500 that came in right before you said that.
okay, I'm getting closer. So, um, there's a couple of different companies here. One is Welcome to Times Square, where so basically you can get on a digital billboard. It displays for 15 seconds once every 24 hours, or no, once an hour for 24 hours. So it'll be displayed 24 times for 15 seconds each, but it's only $150. Um, and then it's even showing you a map here of like where it's like right in the heart of Times Square. So that's one of the companies that does it. Um, yeah, and yeah, 150 get you a photo on your billboard. Yeah, you can submit any photo. I think with this one, you don't get to pick the day and time because it says you'll get an email confirmation with the time slot. So, you might be, I haven't done this one. So I'm not sure if you get to pick a specific date and time, but it almost kind of sounds like maybe you just get to pick kind of generalized, and then they ultimately pick the day and time. Um, or date, I guess, because it's displayed once an hour, so there really isn't a time, I guess. And then another one that's similar is TSX Pixel Star. And this is done through an app. So it's also a 15-second. I believe this one also displays once per hour for 24 hours. And then,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. A couple quick
uh-huh.
questions on the Times
Oh,
Square
yeah.
one. One question was, can you share the name or the website of that again? And
Oh,
would you suggest the use of podcast cover artwork for that?
yeah, I get into that. Yeah, definitely. So I break down what I recommend, but yeah, the website for it, I believe, is, yeah, it's just welcome to timesquare.com. Yeah. Welcome to timesquare.com. Yep. And then blip billboards. So what's different about this one is it's for Times Square, but it's also for anywhere. You can actually also there's no minimum like you could actually do it for as low as like $5, but that's not gonna probably get you where you want to be. But you can choose a location, doesn't have to be just well, it's $5 a day, I guess I should say. You can choose any location, doesn't have to be New York. Set your budget and schedule, upload the design, and then get approved. Okay, so this is where the answer to that question is. So for a Times Square billboard, I recommend having your cover art and text that reads, check out the podcast on your favorite listening app with a QR code next to it that goes to your podcast link that will bring up your podcast on. Well, originally I had said on this slide, I had said a QR code that goes to like a Chartable link. Because the nice thing about Chartable was you could set it up to where it doesn't matter what type of phone they're using, it'll go to whatever. Like if they listen on Apple or Spotify or whatever they listen to podcasts on, it's going to automatically go to that app that they use. But now Chartable's closing down. So I just changed it to your podcast link. So maybe like your website, or if you have like a link tree or uh, you know, I forget what they call those, like a pod link, where it lists all the different players or something. But anyway, just a link to somewhere where it can pull up your podcast or the option for them to pick where they listen. So the purpose of a Times Square billboard is less about expecting people on Times Square to scan the QR code. Of course, some will, but probably not as many as you would hope for. But it's more about capturing a selfie with it if you can go in person, or a video to share on social media. But a lot of these actually have live streams, so you don't have to go in person. If you know the date and time and everything, you can actually view it online, like when it goes live. And then you can turn that into a press release saying podcast name was featured in the heart of Times Square. You post it on social media. If you go in person, you could take a photo or a video of you with it. Like it's more about the publicity of it than even getting the QR code scan, which of course I'm sure some people will. But and then the third thing is newsletters, blogs, and articles. So if you get a featured ad in a relevant industry or niche newsletter, or guest post, or have an ad placement in a relevant industry niche blog, or a listicle article, which would be like the top podcasts about whatever your niche or industry is. A bonus tip about that is you can gain media coverage by creating a top 10 to 20 podcasts in whatever niche list featuring popular shows alongside your own. So, including big name podcasts, or having big name podcasts next to yours boosts credibility and shareability, which helps your podcast gain attention and exposure. Oh, and what I wanted to say more about that was like, so the way to do this, there's two things you could do. You could either kind of like Google search existing blog posts or articles on the internet about the top 10 podcasts or the top 20 podcasts in, I don't know, whatever your niche is, and then see if if those blogs or articles have any like broken links in them, which there's actually like a Chrome extension you can use for that, and I can't think of it at the moment. But it can like check for broken links, and then you can reach out to that blog owner or whoever wrote the article and say, hey, I noticed this podcast either no longer exists or the link is broken or whatever. But my podcast is in this niche. Would you consider, adding it to this article or this blog post? So that's one way to do it. Another is just to create your own blog or article where you create the top 10 or 20 podcasts in whatever niche, and you include like these big shows in it. But then, just slide your podcast in there and then just make sure it has good SEO and share it out and everything. And I don't know, it's kind of a, I don't know what you call it, kind of a, uh, I don't know, gray hat way of doing it or something, but that's an option as well. Um, but yeah, here are the links to like all the things I kind of talked about, the different press releases and the billboards. And then, like I had said at the beginning, you can actually get this entire slide deck at podcasterpr.com/slides, or you can scan this QR code and that will go straight to that as well. Um, so, yeah, it was a short presentation, and I imagine there might be some questions. So, um, did you want me to stop sharing now, or do people still need to scan this?
I'd say give them a second and then maybe
Okay.
stop sharing, and then um, we can take any questions that pop into the chat.
Okay.
And one person just asked if you could keep it up for a minute. They got to go get their phone.
Oh,
And if anybody has questions, if you put them into the chat, I will go ahead and feed those to Sarah so that she can start answering those. Because I know what it's like to have your phone across the room when you need it.
uh,
There was one question on the right before the links um, regarding the. Sorry, my headphones are trying to take over my microphone again. Did it cut me off? Can you still hear me?
it did for like a split second.
Okay, great. For the if you're writing the blog with the top 10 niche and putting yourself in, do you include a source or do you use yourself as a source?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I would say to not include, because I mean, that's kind of more of a matter of opinion, those articles anyway, those top 10 lists, unless it's based on, if it's like the top 10 because it's based on download numbers or number of, listeners or something, then that's fact based. But if it's more kind of like an opinion piece, like what the author thinks is the top 10, which is usually what the case is, then you wouldn't really need to state a source. But I mean, you could state yourself as a source, but then that would kind of, it'd be more obvious that you threw your podcast in there.
Good point. Very good point. Any other questions before we wrap up?
Did everyone get a chance to scan this? Like, can I take this down so I can check out the chat?
All right, I think we're good to take it down. And I will include the
Okay.
link to the presentation in tomorrow's email. So if you did miss it, don't worry. We will get it to you to make sure everybody can get that.
Let's see. Did it stop the screen share?
Now we got a big screen share of your screen and everybody.
Ah. Okay, there we go. I stopped it.
That's fine. Now we're just blocks. That works too. Let's see. Can you explain more about the survey? I feel that part went really fast about the press releases. Like, how do we write a press release again?
Oh, okay. So with the survey option, that would be like whatever. Well, I guess it would help. What is your niche, or like if you have a podcast, what is it about? Because basically you would create a survey, like Survey Monkey or any of those survey taking platforms, um, and um, come up with a list of like 12 to 16 relevant questions for that industry to kind of gather data, and then it's the data that you would use for the actual press release, if that makes sense. Um, okay, do you recommend AI to help with creating the PR? So, like Press Ranger, actually, they use AI. Well, that's one of their options or services. Um, is that it can use create a press release from AI. So yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Let's see. Oh, I see what you're saying. You thought that. the slide was a workflow. Oh, so that slide with the 4 different types of PR, that was more like how you could approach like a particular PR article to have published. You could use like the survey, gather the results from a survey and present that as the press release, or do like the case study option. I'm trying to remember now. I forget what the other 2 are now off the top of my head. But yeah, so okay, you got it now. Okay. Oh, I see. You're reading it left to right. No, okay. Yeah, those are just 4 different styles of press releases. Yeah. I guess I should be more clear with that in the future. Let's see. Let me scroll up and see if I missed anything. Oh, let's see. How do I scroll on here? Oh, there's the scroll bar. Okay. Let's see. Stand there. Oh, do you have to stand there for an hour to catch the Times Square billboard? Yeah, I mean, with it only being 15 seconds, they're probably not going to say, they're probably just going to tell you what day it's going to be and maybe the time frame, like 5 a.m. to 5 a.m., or something like that. I doubt they're going to say it's going to be at like 5:30 a.m. and 45 seconds or something. So yeah, you potentially might have to stand there for an hour if you decide to go in person, or 59 minutes and 45 seconds or something.
It's a good way, grab a coffee, stand there. I mean, don't do it in the winter, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, you don't have to be there in person because most of them do have a live stream. But I think it'd be fun. It's an excuse to go to New York.
Right? Heck yeah.
Let's see. We suggest we put the podcast artwork on the billboard. Oops. I'm just scrolling up and seeing if I missed anything. Okay. I think. Yeah. Oh no. Stephanie asked in the very beginning what the website was. At my website. It's podcasterpr.com, not podcastpr.com. Let's see. Okay. Okay, now I'm scrolling to the bottom to see. Okay, newsletters like Pod News. Any free ideas? Is there no such thing as free? Okay, so Pod News, yeah. I think that's good for like if you're announcing a new podcast, or like if you have a product or service that's specifically related to podcasting. So I run ads in Pod News every so often. The thing about Pod News is like so they don't really have any free well, sometimes they can do a free press release. It kind of depends on what you're wanting to advertise or what you're submitting. Because one time I was able to do a free press release. But if you're like doing more of an ad for something, it starts as low as $29 and then goes up from there. But they only have like one $29 slot a day. And usually it's booked 2 months out. I think they release their booking schedule like I want to say it's at midnight. Yeah. Well, midnight my time anyway. Um so you have to be really quick to get a $29 one, but you could do Pod News. Let's see. I'm checking out Times Square billboard, the 50. Huh. So the Times Square billboard says the $150 option says no brands or logos They do have a second option for brands logos for 250. I guess maybe that changed. I assume, yeah, podcast cover art probably would be considered a brand or a logo. Huh. I think that changed. It didn't used to be that way. Okay, so 250. Still a good deal. Um okay, so you're wondering if there's free PR anywhere. Wondering if there are any free PR options to share, or is that not possible? Let's see. Well, I mean, it usually is free to, search like the listicle type thing that I had mentioned, of like if you're searching existing blogs or articles, like the top 10 podcasts in whatever niche, and say they have a broken link or that podcast is no longer in production or something like that. I mean, usually if you contact the owner of that blog or whoever wrote the article and let them know that, hey, I noticed you had this broken link. I have a podcast on this topic. Um, would you consider, swapping out? I mean, that's typically always free. Um, so something like that, or creating your own blog post, of course, would be free. Um, but yeah, as far as like getting a press release out there, or I mean, typically that's always going to be you're gonna have to pay for that to some degree. As let's see, as low as like maybe $97 up to a few hundred. Um, but or you could even do like a pod swap or a trailer swap or something, where you and another podcast relevant podcast like swap like one of your episode is in their podcast feed in exchange for their episode, so you could get some traction that way, and that's usually free if you swap things like that. But as far as actual media coverage, um, yeah, other than like blogs and articles, sometimes a newsletter, but usually you have to pay for that as well. Um, okay. Okay, I think I'm caught up on the questions that have been submitted. Did you have any questions, Rob?
No, that was really great, very helpful. I'm very interested in the billboard option because that's, it's not traditional media you think of necessarily with a podcast, so that could be
Right.
a really fun approach, I think. And also, especially with New York and Times Square, you've got so many eyeballs and so many people that could be a really cool way to introduce yourself to an entirely new audience. So, great tip and great presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been wanting to actually do that the billboard one myself, but I'm waiting to do it until I can actually get out there to New York. Like maybe wait for a time that I know I'm already going to be out there or something like that, but um yeah, so I think yeah, the I would imagine that you would get some scans, like there's probably hundreds of people walking by it at any given 15-second period. So a few might scan it, but again, I think it's more for the kind of publicity of it, of either whether you're there or you're doing the live stream and you can get a screenshot of it or something and use that on social media. Maybe try to create a press release out of that. Yeah, so
Yeah, no, absolutely. So to wrap us up, and Stephanie had a great question. She asked what the PodOps website is. I'll give you the link to the training page. So if you're interested in more incredible workshops like what Sarah has just shared with you, next month we are meeting, let me check the calendar, November 14th at 6 p.m. And it will be Off to Radio, Same People, Different Platform, Better Results with Ross Yerger. So that's another free event. Feel free to sign up. You can sign up for as many workshops as you like and as far advanced as you would like. We always appreciate you participating. You do not have to have a PodOps podcast in order to join us. We always appreciate your attendance and your participation. I will share this and a link to Sarah's website and presentation in tomorrow's wrap-up email. And I will also share out the links of all of our participants who shared their podcasts, so you can check those out as well. And if you do have follow-up questions afterwards, feel free to reply to the email you receive, and I will happily connect you with Sarah so she can get you any feedback that you have. Sarah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time for us today.
Oh, thank you. And also, oh,
Nope, you're
okay,
good.
we're still there. Okay, good. Uh, one other thing is I do have a free community. I don't know if you're familiar with the school platform, but it's not a Facebook community, but it's like that on if you just go to ampmypod.com, ampmypod.com, it'll take you there. It's a free community. There's about 300 members, and I usually do like a monthly call, which by the way, I need to get you on one of them, Rob, to like do a software demo of
Yeah,
pod
hit me
ops
up.
and stuff. Yeah, I'll send you some
Member of this
information.
school. So I did drop the
It,
link in the chat for you guys, so feel free to grab that, check it out. Sarah puts a lot of great content on there as well.